into the soul mirror where we uncover hidden wisdom that connects spirit, science, and everyday life. I'm your host Shreya, and today we are joined by David Hunter, founder of Global Phytoplankton, whose mission is to bring the ocean's tiniest plants into human and animal wellness. Nearly 2 decades ago, David discovered the extraordinary power of marine phytoplankton, not just as the foundation of the marine food chain and the source of much of Earth's oxygen, but as a nutrition powerhouse for human vitality. Let's explore how something so microscopic might hold answers to our health and our planet's future. So, welcome, David. I'm honored to have you on my show.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Great to be here. Thank you.
David, take us back to that moment of discovery and what first drew you to phytoplankton?
Yeah, I was not expecting to be in phytoplankton, that's for sure. But so the story starts in 2005, and I was contracted at a sea farm that was growing shellfish for that were destined for restaurants. And a gentleman that was my boss hired me as a marketing and salesperson. He was cultivating marine phytoplankton originally as the shellfish food. And so the unique selling proposition were the shellfish that were eating the phytoplankton were 2.5 times bigger than the shellfish that were on traditional commercial feed. Now, the gentleman, whose name's Tom, he had mesothelioma, which is a lung cancer that basically happens when you're exposed to asbestos. And he was expected to die in around 9 months. And he was looking for some sales and marketing systems, which I was doing, and for his wife and his daughter in the event of his passing. Now, so as I was working for him and learning about phytoplankton for shellfish food, he started to eat the phytoplankton as a joke. Okay. Just like literally like feed the shellfish, feed some to him. And we're like, hey, what's going on? That's like crazy. Like, wow, I like dulse, tastes like dulse, I'm going to eat it. Well, a couple of weeks later, he came up to me and said, hey, something really weird is going on, but my blood sugar is completely normal. He's like, you don't know this, but I'm a type 1 diabetic, and I've been waking up and my blood sugar is completely normal. That's really weird. And we were joking that it was the cancer medication that was good for diabetes. And we just kind of shrugged it off and, started going about our day. Well, he went in for an operation at the Royal Jubilee Hospital in Victoria, British Columbia, Canada, for what's called a talc treatment. And that is what happens is the response of the cancer in the lungs is water building up. So they do this treatment in order to stop you from drowning in your own fluids. And when they went in there to go do the operation, they found a cotton white substance along the pleural lining of his lungs. And they felt that it was really odd, and they never did the operation. And they called back a few days later and said there was zero cancer in his body. And he was basically very adamant about that. He thinks it's the phytoplankton. And I don't know how this all happened, and I don't know how this got out, but his recovery made the front page of the local newspaper. And after that hit the newspaper, and we're talking the front page, it was like, man believes plankton stopped his rare cancer. That was the name of the title of the newspaper article. Well, hundreds of people from all over the area, including Washington State, United States, came to the sea farm, and they were picking up phytoplankton, and they were telling me about all these stories about their desperation, their health ailments, looking for anything. And so, like, my mom was the head nurse of a hospital outside of Vancouver. So I was kind of surrounded by that a little bit in my previous life. So, like, I was very, very empathetic. And my mom actually ended up passing away from cancer in 1993. So, like, it's kind of added a whole other layer of compassion for these people. And keeping in mind, I thought it was selling shellfish food, and here I am giving these people phytoplankton. So what happened is that I started to take the phytoplankton that we were given to people based on Tom's anecdotes, and I had a very profound experience in a short period of time. And what happened to me was pretty much almost instantly, I had this energy and mental clarity that was very deep and subtle, and it was there. And I felt like my brain was working, 1,000% better. I was so like just clear in my thinking, but I also had this energy. I had a candida rash in between my legs forever that basically evaporated in like 3, 4 days. My whole life, where I had to like blow my nose all the time, that went away. Me is that I used to have like really bad migraine headaches, and all of a sudden I wasn't getting any migraine headaches, and I haven't even had a migraine headache since 2000. Keep in mind, I was very severe. Now, so that's okay. So I'm like, okay, that's going on. And, after everybody kind of the newspaper kind of finished, like, we went about our regular day. But a month later, these people started to come back, and they were telling me about these miraculous stories of healing, like miracle stories that you would be deemed impossible. But because I witnessed it with Tom, and then now I have my own personal anecdote, I understood what they were talking about. But it was a very broad set of recoveries. It was like Crohn's colitis, and it was acid reflux, and it was joint pain, and it was hair stopping to fall out, erectile dysfunction, digestive issues, skin issues. And I'm like, and we're not talking like 5 or 6 here. Like, we're talking hundreds, okay? And we're talking like lights in their eyes, super happy, willing to pay whatever the price we would want to put on it. And I witnessed this with hundreds of people. So I was getting very passionate about like, holy smokes. But I think my light switch came on when a doctor in Qualicum Beach, British Columbia, who changed my life, came over, and he was very excited. He was kind of like a holistic doctor. And then his name is Dr. Rowe. And I said, Dr. Rowe, like, what is going on? Like, this is crazy. And he goes, I think you guys, like, or Tom, accidentally discovered the holy grail of nutrition. And he goes, I think this is actually really simple. He goes, phytoplankton is the first food on the planet. It is literally born from immaculate conception, the tiniest and most abundant plants on the planet. They nourish the complete oceanic ecosystem, including whales, okay, that are the size of a school bus. And he said then also the birds of prey that eat, or the fish that also eat the phytoplankton, are also surviving on that. It's like produces the majority of oxygen, but he goes, more importantly, it's the first food. And he had said he thinks what's going on, which I think he was right based on, now being doing this for 20 years, is that he thinks what is going on is that the root cause of the majority, not all, but the majority of sickness and ill health is malnourishment through the diet. And you're just missing certain things, never mind fast food and bad food and Cheetos and all this other stuff. And I'll pick Cheetos a little bit, but bad food, like we know that as like what they call junk food, right? And he said and so if you have this typical North American diet, over time, if you are lacking certain nutrients and your body, this is our building blocks that we need to live. And he said that he thinks what's going on is, since the phytoplankton is microscopic, it's 1.2 microns, which is the third the size of a blood cell. He thinks what is going on is that this nutrition is going directly into the cell, and more specifically the mitochondria, which is the engine of every cell in the body. And so if that mitochondria is plugged up, sick, loaded with junk, it's not going to run properly. And then people are just lethargic and sick, and their immune system's out of whack and blah, blah. But since the phytoplankton is pure nutrition, like it's a naturally occurring nutrient with a little bit of everything in it, like, so all the omegas, the calcium, the magnesium, the selenium, potassium, riboflavin, blah, 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 is all in the phytoplankton in its naturally occurring form. When it goes into the body recognizes it because nutrition is universal. And that is the fuel for the mitochondria, direct fuel. So now the mitochondria finally, which is probably starving, now gets this pure fuel, fires up like an engine that hasn't been running for a long time. When you find an old car and it sits in the barn for 10 years and, you fire it up, you put some new plugs in it, some new gas, you know, do a few tricks, you get that engine to
Mhm.
fire. And so then the engine fires up, which is the mitochondria. Then all of a sudden you have that awakening. And the awakening is energy to begin with, because that's the mitochondria also produces energy. This fuel and this nutrition is going into your brain, which then is now your mental clarity. This is explains this mental clarity that you get. But then also a lot of these diseases and sickness are autoimmune disease, and they're kind of a result of a really weak immune system. And then all of a sudden he says, like, when it's all clogged up, like the cells are not talking to each other. They're like, the signal is like, if you get a bad radio signal and the immune system needs to talk to each other, well, then now all of a sudden the signal is clear and the cells are talking to each other because they're nourished and they're happy. Well, this also communicates to the immune system, which then reverses an autoimmune situation, because now the immune system is not fighting against you, but it's actually talking and it's nourished, so it's healthy. And then this is the reason why these autoimmune health issues I just talked about reverse themselves in such a short period of time. Because if the root cause of an autoimmune situation is malnourishment within the cell, if you introduce pure nutrition, full, complete, beginning of the food chain nutrition into your cells, well, then that is the exact, that is the law of cause and effect in action. And it's just really that simple. So I didn't design or formulate. So and I'll just go back to say like a multivitamin. Oh, these are just people that work for a company that, they go, oh, let's put some vitamin B's in here and some vitamin A and some, vitamin E and blah, blah, blah. And they source them from a majority of different places. The quality is speculative at best. And they compress it into a tablet, and they're basically trying to emulate phytoplankton. And that's kind of like what a multivitamin is. But the thing is that this multivitamin, which is the phytoplankton, is the first food. It's the beginning. It's the pole position. If you believe in God, like, this is what God chose or designed to be the first food on the planet. I didn't create it. So this is divine formulation. And this is just literally the sun penetrating the surface of the ocean, and the combination of the sunlight and the seawater literally makes a plant pop out of nowhere. It's immaculate conception. If this was happening in front of us in a big way, like, we'd all be freaking out because it'd be a miracle. But it happens microscopically. We can't see it. And so this phytoplankton it floats on the surface of all oceans across the world is the smallest plant life in the world, but it also is the most abundant plant life on the planet, and it produces the majority of the oxygen we breathe. A lot of people think it's the rainforests, but the majority of the oxygen in every breath that we take comes from phytoplankton. So the fact that it's the first food, it's the beginning of life, food, and nutrition, it sustains the entire oceanic ecosystem naturally, including the birds. Like, it's pure nutrition is pure form. It is very logical. If you just use logic and you use, say, how a person feels in human health, like, this is the foundation of life, and it's the building blocks of life. So if you introduce the foundation and building blocks of life into your cells, well, you now have a foundation. So instead of guessing if you need, a certain mineral or a vitamin, well, how about just getting it from this microscopic plant, naturally occurring plant life that we can grow by seed, and we don't even have to harvest it from the ocean. It's grown sustainably. You put it into your diet. We have it in a green powder. We mix it with water. You drink it, and the light switch comes on. And I'm happy to say I'm now 52 years old. I started this at 32. I just had my 20-year anniversary in July. And I went from being overweight, having to blow my nose 100 times a day, candida rash between my legs, migraine headaches, and chronic fatigue. I am now 52 years old. I have absolutely zero medications, zero sickness. I have absolutely zero mobility issues. I can, I can run 5 kilometers, without stopping. I can lift heavy weights. I can golf all day. Like, I have time to, have this job and play with my kids at the end of the day, you know? And, and I'm not the only one, and like, this is not some new thing. Like, it's new probably to the people, but, we launched this in Canada. It took me 6 years to get this approved as a human nutrient in Canada and the United States. And we sold hundreds of thousands of units in Canada. And the results that I'm talking about here, this isn't just Dave Hunter talking about this, on this podcast, and, who's this quack talking about all these crazy claims. Real world results are documented online. Like, look at marine phytoplankton and the health benefits. You're not going to find a lot of negativity on there at all. It's people just talk about life-changing stories. And that's, fortunately for me, been a big blessing, because that's, it's another day in the office for me. And you know what? I'll take that. That's just why I'm here, getting the word out.
Thank you for sharing your story with us. And that's so inspiring and shows how something smallest discoveries hold the biggest impacts. And also, skeptics might say it just algae. How do you respond to that kind of dismissal?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I could tell you a million stories. I'll tell you a couple, and I'll try and make it short. Okay? Because then I'll give you an example. I was at a pharmacy conference of all things. Okay, talking to pharmacists, and a lot of them like really understood it, but like this one guy really wanted to make an example out of me, and he said two things to me. He goes, I can't believe that you're even allowed in this room. He said this in front of like 80 people, right? How can you be up here? Basically, I said the same story, kind of, and he goes, how can you be here? Like, this guy has no science, no nothing, like, why am I here? This is a joke, right? He was getting really mad, very agitated. Not the first guy, but like, whatever. And I just said to him, I said, okay, well, I said, I understand why this would potentially rub you the wrong way. And you're telling me that I have no science. Well, let me ask you this. Is there science on B vitamins? Yeah. Okay. Is it good? Are they healthy? Yeah. Is there science on vitamin C? Yeah. Omega 3s? Yeah. Selenium? Yeah. Potassium? Yeah. There's science on those, right? Yep. They all say that they're good, right? Is there anything negative about any vitamins and essential building blocks and antioxidants and carotenoids? No. Okay. So actually, there is a lot of science on it, because those nutritional elements are naturally occurring in the phytoplankton. I did not formulate this. There is science to all these vitamins and minerals. Everybody believes vitamin and minerals are healthy. Like, it's a multi-billion-dollar business, right? But the thing is that phytoplankton is Mother Nature's original multivitamin. I didn't create it. It was just overlooked. And then so then actually some of the pharmacists started to chime in and say, you know what, I've seen, like, what he's saying is true. Like, we sell it here, and this is actually working. People are coming back with these good stories. And then so I said, well, let me challenge you on this. And I said, and I mean this in the highest level of respect, okay, as a pharmacist. I said, how many times, pharmacies in North America are usually in the back of the store, okay? They're usually in front of, they have like a retail store. They'll sell lawnmowers and all this stuff in pharmacies out here in North America, right? And I said, how many times, okay? And I really want you all to be serious. I want you to put up your hand if this has happened to you. I said, keeping in mind you're criticizing me, so let me throw this back at you. I said, how many times have you rang in diabetes medication in the till at the same time you rang in a 12-pack of Coca-Cola? Right? Guess how many put up their hands? Every single one of them. And I said, you're up here telling me, criticizing me about talking Mother Nature's original vitamins, all knowing that vitamins and minerals are healthy and we all need them. Meanwhile, you're selling diabetes medication at the same time you're ringing in a 12-pack of soda with 60 grams of sugar in a can. You're selling the problem and the solution, right?
Yes.
And I said, so like, and so that's kind of one thing. And then people go, well, I looked at the detailed profile and the magnesium and the calcium is different than like, what I learned in school or whatever. I get criticized a little bit of that. And I'd be like, hey, I'm not saying you're right and I'm not saying that you're wrong. But I said, I didn't formulate this plant. This is what God chose to be the EPA, DHA, magnesium, calcium, amount in there, and it's homeop what's it called? Homeopathic, right? It's like microdosing. And I said that, at least it's getting in there, like kind of thing, right? And I just go, at the end of the day, I've sold hundreds of thousands of this, and I used to have a very high level accounting firm called Deloitte. A lot of people might have heard of it. So the big five accounting firms, okay? Analyzing my business. And they told me that they said that they had never seen ever in their history the amount of reorders and lifetime customer value in the supplement business ever. And this is a $90 US product. And they had said that that is absolutely unheard of. How is this possible? And I said, it's very simple. People vote with their wallet. And if the product doesn't work, they're not going to buy it, and especially for $90 US. And I said, the product works. People get it and they go, you know what? Maybe they can get rid of some of their multivitamins or some of the things that they just, not working for them. And, so then they save money that way. And then because they finally found something that actually delivered on a promise. And the promise is that if you take the phytoplankton, that we create more value than the price. And we had a money back guarantee right from the beginning. And we had a 0.81% return rate on a $90 product. Like, that's unheard of. And so this is the kind of data, that I stand behind, and I'm still here 20 years later, right? And you know what? I tell you what, in the world of the internet, if I was a fraud and this was all BS and I was the biggest liar on the planet, it would be all over the internet already. That's way too much. I was in 3,000 pharmacies in Canada, nationally listed in Costco. Mm-hmm. Thousands of customers in the US. Like, my name would be plastered all over the internet as the biggest fraud in human history. So it's just, so I just stand behind it, and I'm still going strong. And my mission is just to, one podcast at a time. And if one of the listeners or any of your listeners are listening to this and they go, you know what, like, I'm suffering, I need this, or, I'm nothing, just give it a try. Like, you're here, you're listening to it. If it's resonating, just give it a try. And it's not even a sales pitch. I don't need the $20. Like, I want you to see you get better, and if you don't, then send it back. I'll give you your money back. So I'm taking the risk at the end of the day. You know what I mean? It's all there on the internet. Like, it's just common sense. It's amazing. It's very profound. Another day at the office for me when I hear about somebody, they're just getting better from something that troubled them for a long period of time and thinking there was no hope.
It's a reminder that most breakthroughs were once doubted, but what matters is whether the science and lived experiences show a truth that is too powerful to ignore. And thank you for joining our show and sharing so much of your experiences, your insights, your wisdom. And if after this my listeners want to connect with you, then what's the best way?
Okay, well, we have a pretty easy domain. It's usagpa.com. So it's Global Phytoplankton, so basically USA, and people should remember that. GPA, which is for Global Phytoplankton Alliance.com. usagpa.com. And, you can learn all about it, order it online. You can call in. We have I'm proud to say that my daughter runs the customer service. You talk to my daughter. She's seen it too. She's 24 years old. She's been alive ever since it started. She's seen it too. That's why she's there, and that's people are resonating with it. And again, it's got money back guarantee. I don't want your money if it doesn't work for you. I just want you to get better.
Yes, and I will definitely make sure to attach all these details and links below so that the listeners can find them easily and get in touch with you. What an eye-opening journey with David Hunter. From the depths of the ocean to the core of our cells, phytoplankton reminds us that the smallest life forms can fuel the greatest transformations. If this sparked your curiosity, take a moment to reflect on how your health choices ripple out into the planet's health too. After all, when we nurture the source, we nurture ourselves. Thank you.